Yeah, cool. I guess the first things first, Rob, if you don't mind, give a bit of an introduction to yourself, sort of name and title, etc.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Rob Lyon. I'm the campaign director for a new campaign which is called CO Alarms Save Lives. It's a campaign just making people aware of the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning and how they can stay safe.
Yeah, fantastic. So I guess then the first thing to ask you is to to tell me a little bit about the law change that's going on in October and what landlords and also tenants maybe need to be aware of.
Sure. So there's been a change to the regulations and the law around how the responsibility of landlords for carbon monoxide alarms. Something we've been campaigning for many, many years, and thankfully it's now in place. So all rented properties in England must have a carbon monoxide alarm in place by the 1st of October, and it's a real step change because it's taken the onus off the tenant, if you like, or the homeowner to really make sure that there's an obligation on the person who's in charge of that property to keep people safe. It's a fantastic piece of regulation. It's not quite gone far enough. I'd hope it was all homes, but it's all rented properties, which is a great start to keeping people safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess then if a tenant was listening in and thought, I don't have one, or my landlord might not know about this, should they actually inform their landlord?
Absolutely. It's something we've been really keen with this campaign. We've made sure we're focusing on making the landlords aware of their obligations, but we're really reaching out to residents and tenants as well, because there are lots of very reputable landlords out there that have their tenants well-being at the top of their to-do list, but equally there's some maybe that aren't, or some maybe people maybe just not aware of these changes. So yeah, absolutely. If you rent a property and you feel that you should have a carbon monoxide alarm, speak to your landlord. You can point them in the direction of our website, which is www.coalarmsavelives. All the details are on there, and you can make sure that you're safe from the silent killer.
Yeah, and you said that those words there, the silent killer. So tell me a little bit about carbon monoxide and why it is so deadly.
Well, carbon monoxide is known as the silent killer because it has sort of it doesn't present itself to the Joe public in the normal way. So if you think, for example, you can't see, smell, or taste it, unlike say a smoke alarm where there are it's important you have one, but there are visual cues to a fire, such as the noise, the smell, the sound. With carbon monoxide, it's completely invisible to the human senses. It may present itself as symptoms, maybe akin to the flu, or you may have some shortness of breath, but these can often be misinterpreted as something else. Even you may go to your GP and say, I'm feeling unwell, but the symptoms can show up as other things, and you may well be sent straight back home to the cause of the problem. So a carbon monoxide alarm is the only way of detecting carbon monoxide and alerting you that you're in danger.
Yeah, and then I wonder whose responsibility it will be to check the device is working then.
So the responsibility does sit with the landlord. So I would certainly advise anybody who's living within the property to make themselves aware of the alarm, test it monthly, check it's still working, check it's still where it should be, because things can move. But the obligation does sit with the landlord.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit more about the importance of having an alarm. Like, why is it so important?
Well, carbon monoxide as a silent killer, people first and foremost aren't aware of it, and it can come from any fuel burning appliance, such as a boiler, a wood burning stove, an open fire, water heater, either like a gas hob or a gas oven, for example, or a gas fire. So almost all properties have something within them that could emit carbon monoxide poisoning, even if you have a property, but you could have the flue could be blocked or a chimney could be blocked. And there's even instances of carbon monoxide coming from neighbouring properties through brickwork, and tragically people have died. It's not even their fuel burning appliance that went wrong. And because it doesn't have any symptoms, people can live with low level carbon monoxide poisoning potentially for a long time, just feeling very, very unwell, which can have long term health implications. But a very severe carbon monoxide leak can lead to collapse, loss of consciousness, and death incredibly quickly. And only a carbon monoxide alarm will give you that early warning to get out of the property and to seek help.
So then I wonder what will happen if a landlord doesn't comply with this law. Is there any sort of consequences if they don't install the carbon monoxide alarms?
So landlords they should be obligated to keep their tenants safe, but there is a implications to not. There's a £5,000 fine, and quite importantly, per property. So if you're a landlord that has tens, hundreds of properties, it could get very expensive very quickly. But we would hope that they're keeping their tenants safe from the silent killer would be their first priority. But importantly, there is that fine in place as an implication if people don't comply with the rules.
Yeah, fantastic. And tell me then, because you said it a little bit earlier about how you sort of been campaigning for this for a while. So how has this law change come about?
Well, we've been working as an industry to try and make this change for many, many years, lots of lobbying with government. And we've got to this point after, I would sort of, gosh, talking many, many years. I've certainly been in the industry myself for about 15 years, and it's been on the agenda that entire time. But thankfully, it's been championed by certain members of Parliament. Eddie Hughes, especially, the Minister at the Department of Levelling Up, has really pushed this through, and it's been such a critical piece of legislation because there are, only about 54% of homes in England don't have a carbon monoxide alarm, so you can see the extent of the potential problem. But we just want it to go further. It's great we've got to this point with all rented properties, but we're still behind Scotland, where the regulations applies to all homes, and that regulation is already in place, has been since February this year. So it's a great start, but we still think there's more that can be done.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more about that then. I guess what other measures would you like to come in to protect people more?
I mean, I think the best way to keep people safe is to make it law that the carbon monoxide alarm needs to be in all homes. In the same way that campaigns have been there for smoke alarms, I've also worked in the smoke alarm industry in my past, and smoke alarm ownership is 90% plus. So people would be shocked not to have a smoke alarm. It's something people know. There's been government level campaigns to make people aware of the dangers and the need for smoke alarms. That's really been lacking in the carbon monoxide world. There's some really great campaigns. People like ourselves and others are really pushing the narrative. But yeah, there was a regulation that all properties had to have a carbon monoxide alarm, as is the case in Scotland. I do really feel that England and Wales are behind, and they really need to catch up. And also there's a level of awareness still needed, because it's all very well people having the alarms, but if they're not aware of the alarm being in their home, what it means if the alarm goes off, I think people need to understand the dangers of carbon monoxide, how it can present itself, and what to do if that alarm goes off is really important.
So tell me where listeners can go for a bit more information if they want to find out about the new law change, about what you guys are campaigning for. Where should they head to?
Yeah, we've created a campaign website. It's www.coalarmssavelives.com, and on there we have all the implications for the new rules. What is carbon monoxide? Where does it come from? How does it display itself as symptoms? There's guidance on alarms, because obviously it's important people have an alarm, but making sure it's a certified alarm to the correct standards, because as with anything, if you go onto the wrong marketplace, you could find an alarm that doesn't necessarily meet those standards. So all the information is on there, and people can find every way of understand everything they need to know to keep themselves safe from carbon monoxide poisoning.